is it typically to work with influencers, and particularly with celebrities? We often assume that working with celebrities is the go-to, but I want to challenge that thought for today. So I want to introduce you to this guy, who you might know, Ricky Gervais. Now, of course, we all know him as the comedian Ricky Gervais, but for the sake of this presentation, I want to introduce you to Ricky Gervais, the co-owner of Dutch Barn Vodka, and that is a brand that I'm going to be using as a case study for today. Whilst I've worked with, as I said, Muller refrigerators, etc., most recently I am the senior brand manager at Dutch Barn Vodka, a new startup. For those of you who haven't heard, I'll give you a little bit of context about the brand. So Ellis Farm Distillery is the umbrella company. It's a distillery in York. I'm not trying to pitch to you, just for context, by the way, because it's a startup and no one knows. We do gins, liqueurs, and vodka. And like I said, the Dutch Barn Vodka is our go-to product of the portfolio, if you like. That's the one that we're really trying to push as our leading brand of all the entire portfolio. So again, just for context, and again, this is all relevant to my presentation. Dutch Barn Vodka, unlike your typical vodka, if I think about the ones that we don't like, Smirnoff, they're distilled 3 times. Dutch Barn Vodka is distilled 70. We are incredibly smooth, clean, and crisp. Typically, vodka products are made out of potato, and Dutch Barn Vodka is made out of apples. So we're not flavored, we are made from apples. It's a completely different market. Now, of course, you're probably thinking, why is she talking about this and not celebrities versus influencers? It's relevant because the challenges we've had with trying to change the perception of vodka is actually one of the challenges we've had with trying to break the industry going into vodka, and again, leveraging following online. So if I go back, so yeah, what I'm trying to share with you today is that all of this is relevant because our brand's purpose and values align with some of the challenges we are facing online. So again, a bit more context. Ellis Farm Distillery was founded in 2022 by Chris Fraser on the left, and Ricky Gervais joined as co-owner in November 2023, which marked a significant milestone for the business with a celebrity backing to propel it forward. Now, I came on board, like I said, in May 2024, and despite Ricky being the face of the brand, I was actually really surprised at how little the brand had performed in terms of brand awareness. Raise of hands, has anyone heard of Dutch Barn Vodka? Before or just from the previous slides? Yeah, not many people know, but everyone seems to know about Ricky Gervais. It was also really shocking to me, particularly from a marketer, that the business prioritized sales. We've got a very, very good retailer distribution regionally in York, but again, the brand awareness is very, very low. Now, again, all of this is relevant because often when you have a brand that's backed by a celebrity, you often think, well, they should be thriving from day one. That was not the case for us at all. In fact, 2 years in, although Ricky joined in November, 2 years in since the brand existed, we've really been struggling with that brand awareness. Why? Because no one knows about the vodka, even if we are talking about it on our social media. Now, for the sake of just everyone being on the same platform, and I know we're all in marketing or similar, we know what a celebrity is versus an influencer, but so that we have the same definition, in this case, for this presentation, I wanted to talk about celebrities as being people who exist offline. They've got coverage on TV, maybe they're on newspapers or in their movies. Influencers, for the case of this presentation, are people who only survive with an online following, right? You don't know about an influencer unless you physically follow them. Why am I highlighting that? Because a celebrity typically would, like for me, I could be a fan of Ricky Gervais. That doesn't mean I follow him. I might be a big fan of Afterlife, but I don't follow him. But people like, I'm thinking business influencers talk about like Grace Beverley, for example. You'd have to follow her to know about what she's doing. And so again, I want us to just kind of bounce off that idea of celebrity versus influencer. So if I now go back, again, just for context, we'd posted a lot of content on Dutch Barn Vodka's Instagram account. And on it, typically, Ricky was pretty much involved heavily on all of the different social media posts, because, again, we wanted to leverage him. This is a video, in case you're wondering why it's a very unattractive picture of Ricky. I will play that in a second. Now, actually, going off the back of that, with Ricky being involved, he wanted to have creative lead, of course. He was a comedian. He wanted to leverage his tone of voice into the brand. And so in marketing, we had a lot of fun with this because a lot of our social media posts were very much trying to bring to life Ricky and Dutch Barn, trying to be that disruptive vodka in the category, being distilled so many more times than our competitors, being made from apples, but equally having his backing. So what did that mean in terms of celebrity posting? Well, typically we did a lot of UGC generated content where Ricky was the face of those videos. In fact, I'll share with you now, just for context, some of the social posts that we've been sharing online.
Hi, I'm Ricky Gervais, and this is Dutch Barn Vodka. It's a premium quality spirit made from British apples, so it tastes great, and it's friendly to the environment. I tell you to love this, Einstein. He'd be like, oh, E equals MC, oh, sip squared. In all seriousness, alcohol isn't good for clear thinking at all. It's a neurotoxin that can disrupt communications in the brain. It also affects the function of brain cells, and that can lead to intellectual impairment, if anything. So, Dutch Barn.
Those are some of the social posts that we've done. Now, like I said, not only did we get a bit carried away, but also did Ricky when we were recording this. We were kind of like, we need to just rein you in a little bit. For the sake of not offending anyone, there are some more out there posts, which you can follow us on Instagram. I'm not going to play it now because they're a little bit touchy and I don't want to offend anyone. But I will say we went a bit wild in marketing with some of the posts. Of course, we had to because we had Ricky Gervais. Now, again, this is all just context to share with you the background behind what we had done to date with Dutch Barn Vodka. So we'd invested heavily in social media. The engagement, however, was really, really poor, and this is online. The ads weren't driving significant sales, and the problem was that social media audiences are often very passive. They might enjoy the content, but are often very, very unlikely going to actually purchase and convert. So after experimenting with around 10 of those similar videos, I decided it was time for us to take a different approach and move the brand offline to boost those sales, because influencer strategy at this point had produced very little results. So we shifted Dutch Barn from typically doing those social media posts, very similar to the one that I shared, going offline onto TV and out of home, including billboards, buses, and digital screens. So TV advertising offers a level of mass exposure and credibility that social media typically you would expect to have with a high-profile individual like Ricky, but we didn't have that at all. So when we focused on TV, we observed a clear link between the airing of the ad and a notable increase in our sales. So our TV campaign was straightforward. Ricky Gervais very much just spoke directly to the screen in his signature style, presenting Dutch Barn in a very simple manner. It was unpolished, and it was real, and it was definitely raw, and to be honest, very little editing went into it. You'll find out in a second.
Research shows that using a dog in your advert makes people more interested in your product. So, there's the dog, there's the product. Dutch Barn. What is it? Yeah. It's what, made from British apples? You are joking. Dutch Barn vodka. Really? Why so expensive?
So this is a clip of our TV advert, which we then went live with nationally in the UK. So again, why am I showing all of this? Because what I wanted to highlight to you is that working with a celebrity online and offline is very, very different, particularly when you have a celebrity like Ricky Gervais. So this direct and authentic approach of our TV out of home cut the clutter. It broke noise, and it was very, very disruptive, particularly when you think about all of the different adverts that you see online. Think about Heineken in particular, where they're very, very staged, very theatrical TV ads, and this was just your point blank, one angle, one take, and it went onto TV. The campaign featured Ricky, as you've seen, addressing the viewers very plainly, and very much telling you this is what it is. So why did it work? Because the authenticity and simplicity of the message resonated with our viewers. Unlike highly produced ads, this approach felt very genuine and relatable, which helped build the brand trust. Within weeks, we saw a significant increase in our sales website traffic and brand awareness. The TV ad provided the credibility and brand exposure that social media alone could not have achieved. Ads that resonate emotionally with consumers are more likely to drive action. This is why storytelling is so important. Oops. Not only is it just about the product, but it's about how it makes the consumer feel. Simplicity is very, very much the route that we are taking as a celebrity-backed brand. Consumers often are very bombarded with ads daily. A clear, simple message stands out from more than an overcomplicated one. And our TV worked because it was straightforward and relatable. Think about repeated exposure channels, different channels which help reinforce your brand message. Consistency in messaging builds the trust and familiarity. So key learnings that we'd taken from this experiment of going onto TV versus just remaining on social media is that actually so many of his followers who actually loved Ricky, like I said, I'm a big fan of Ricky Gervais, big fan of Afterlife, doesn't mean I follow him. And so everyone who is now seeing the brand on out-of-home TV was suddenly now resonating with the brand, and we saw a significant increase in our sales. Why? Because celebrity endorsed brands don't always work if you think about just social media and just using their following as an influencer-led brand. It does not always guarantee for a direct sales. While celebrities can lend gravitas to a brand, influencers are better for niche targeting. However, neither should be relied upon exclusively. The key is knowing how to leverage each other for different outcomes. So what does this mean for you when you think about influencer marketing? Well, I would challenge you to focus on different campaigns and think about how you can drive that immediate sale. So think about flash sales, limited time offers, and also thinking about direct response TV ads. I think often we're so focused on focusing just on influencers and just online, but I challenge you, even if you don't have the budget, to consider connected TV now, where you can target down your adverts to things like online Netflix or even online ITV, I think also has it, where you can put your brand out there into new forums and new platforms where you're not relying on just the followers. Often when we think about influencers, we're looking at, well, they've got loads of followers, so of course if I do like a collaboration or get them to talk about my brand, is going to work. But actually, if you think about the funnel, they might have 10 million followers, only 10% of them are actually going to see the post, and that's only once. If you have them talking about your posts consistently, maybe 5 or 6 posts, okay, now their conversion is going to increase. But again, that's just you talking and building that brand awareness. It does not always convert. And we did that with a man who had 10 million followers, and we saw about 2 or 3 sales. Okay, exaggeration, but you get my point. We didn't really convert. It wasn't until we went out of home where people who were big fans of Ricky saw him in a natural environment versus on Instagram did we see that uplift in the performance. Thinking long term, investing in that consistent brand messaging across all of our platforms will develop a robust content strategy, and it will help you build that story and connect with your audience on that deeper level, particularly when you think about how you can engage with your brands through long-term campaigns like partnerships and sponsorship and community events. Now, like I said, working with influencers is sometimes the go-to when it comes to social media marketing, but we forget that UGC and influencer ads is quite a common strategy that isn't always a motivational factor for our consumers. Just because you have a celebrity-backed brand does not mean that it is going to be a success from day one. Celebrities in particular carry a lot of baggage. For recently, if I'm being very transparent, Ricky Gervais has had a lot of backlash. In fact, when we're looking at retailers, a lot of them will not list us because they don't like Ricky and what he says on stage as a comedian. Imagine that if you've got other comedians or celebrities that you're working with, and particularly with the rise of everyone wanting to be an influencer, it's very, very difficult for us to have a brand that will appreciate the journey of an influencer versus the product itself. So by that I mean appreciate the product, the brand, the liquid of the vodka, and forget about Ricky's past. That's something that we're now trying to battle, particularly as I think there was a bit of backlash or something. There's a few articles now about him bullying other people or something. We've now got to react to that. So sometimes having celebrities involved with your brand as well is actually more baggage than it is just about that brand awareness and using their platform to build your brand. Again, I've kind of touched on how you might be a big fan of someone, but that doesn't mean that you're going to follow them. So again, trying to convert and taking your brand outside of just that social media platform and thinking bigger, TV, going nationally. In fact, what we did with Dutch Barn, we did some regional activities. So Dutch Barn Ellis Farm Distillery is based in York. So in York, we did a number of different TV ads, regional marketing, like on buses, out-of-home digital billboards. But in London and everywhere else, they just saw the TV ad. And again, that was because we wanted to try and create that cult following in York versus what we have regionally. Having that comparison also helped us differentiate some of the visuals we were using. So in York specifically, it was all about Yorkshire. It was about the distillery being based in York, and everywhere else saw Ricky's face. So again, we could compare how successful is it to have a celebrity on the brand versus without. And I think the final point that I wanted to leave us on is that brands are doing a lot more now to build their awareness. And whilst that reflex might be to work with influencers, I challenge you to go wider and bigger with your ideas. Sometimes the traditional campaigns like TV is more effective. Of course, like I touched on, if you don't have the budget for it, consider going onto CTV, connected TV, or going onto YouTube ads, taking yourself outside instead of just relying on their following to grow your brand. I will now open up. Does anyone have my first question? I think there's one at the front.
Hi. Sorry if I missed the opening or something, but I wanted to. Maybe I'm also just reiterating your point of the presentation, but comparing celebrity versus influencer, is it the idea that Ricky did better in TV because that's just where people like know him from? Whereas maybe if you had someone like who actually did build their following up from grassroots up until wherever, that they might have also their natural habitat then would have been in social media, and therefore maybe you would have gotten a bit more of an uplift in social media as opposed to maybe even putting them on the ads. Like, do you think that there would be that opposite effect if you had someone who built their profile up?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because particularly if we look at influencers who are now launching their own products. I mean, if I take, for example, Molly May, who's just launched her own clothing line, I think to your point, if she were to now go into TV, people think that's quite a jump from her going from social media to TV. So I think that's, for us, particularly with me joining quite late into the marketing strategy, it was very difficult because they were treating Ricky like an influencer. And I think it's really important for you to, exactly how you articulated, is to differentiate, well, he is a celebrity, he needs to stay on TV, and relying on his online, yes, he might have loads of followers, that is not the correct platform for him. I think it would be really interesting to see how other influencers were to do it if they were to scale up. But equally, I guess my question to you now is, how would, for example, Molly May transition from social media to TV? How would they make, well, not sorry, I mean, feel free to answer, but also I think that's something that we need to ask ourselves when we're working with influencers. How do we support them with that transition into the out of home environment?
I agree, and like not to hog it, but I'm just I think it's funny because like even Molly May, we knew her technically from TV, like
Yeah.
for the majority of it. So I think it's like I agree. It's trying to understand whether like there's scale where we want them to go into that TV aspect, and if their goals align with that. But if they only want to kind of create their that social media base, maybe from YouTube and Instagram, since they're all more like connected now, then we can like even scale them like little by little through YouTube, and then still stay in that social media phase maybe. But yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Were there any other questions? Okay, I'll be up here anyway if there's any other questions. Thank you, everyone.